Thursday. Mike and I are down in the shed for about 3 hours of work today. We're going to continue on working on the play field here. We're going to reinstall the wire rail, the metal rail that runs on the side over here, and then continue on with the lights. Oh, and the black pieces of wood that go around the outer edge. So we'll try and get all that stuff installed today, and then work on the lights for the rest of the evening. Excuse my handheld poor photography there, but here, maybe that's a little better. So anyway, that's it for today. So one of the first things I'm going to start working on is trying to get this wire rail attached. There are 2 holders here that we are going to replace, and there's a 3rd holder back over here. We wanted to replace it, but I don't think we're going to be able to. Our replacement units are wider, and so they'll hold more of the wire and keep it from popping out. But this wire on this side comes around the back here and holds it from the top, and as you can see, there really isn't much mounting space there. I will see if I can mount my other one there, but I don't have a lot of confidence that it'll work. So we'll see. So I'm going to be doing that first. So I'll set the camera up on a tripod so you guys can watch, and I'll play around with this for a bit. Yep, it works fine. Doesn't hit any of them. Okay, so you see it's done, and we managed to get all three of the new holders on. This holder's a little different. It's flat. These two are curved to match the thing, but they hold this wire really firmly. And with all this grasping room, they'll last a lot longer than these that just have a couple of millimeters of holding room there. So that's it. I'm going to have to turn the table over, put the lock nuts on the bottom, and screw that all down. I'm not going to film that, so we'll be back in a little bit, maybe working on the side rails. Okay, we have temporarily removed the wire rod while we reattach the rails. I forgot to start the video earlier, but what I've done is I've placed this piece of wood on here. We don't have any clamps, so I've taped it on temporarily with some painter's tape, and I drilled a hole from the top down to the bottom. From there, I'm going to drill a second one here. And that should mark the play field. I'll drill all the way through, and then I'll maybe widen it a little bit from the other side, and then I'll put a couple of screws in to hold it. The original pieces were mostly held in with staples, but we're probably going to mostly hold it in with screws, I think. Sheet metal screws, the perfect screw for the job.
Now they have to be flatheads,
Do they?
think, because they sit.
Because this sits on the...
Sits on the rail. And I don't think we have any. So unless you want to drill a relief underneath to recess the head.
I could do that. That wouldn't take much.
Okay.
I will have to turn it over, but I'm just checking for size right now. Yeah, so that hole is nowhere near big enough. It did last time too. Way longer. Our other option would be to just temporarily put this in with these screws and then wait until we can get some flatheads. I think that might be a better idea.
That'd be fine.
Because all we're trying to do is get it kind of put back together.
That's right. As long as we don't forget.
So since we're mumbling away here, the screws I have are panhead screws, but because the edge of this sits on the rails of the pinball machine, it needs to be a flathead screw with a kind of a countersunk thing, and we don't have any of those here. So temporarily we're just going to put 2 screws in each rail to hold it here, and then when we get some flathead screws, we'll come back and finish the process. But for right now, we're just trying to get this good enough to hold together. Oh, while I'm over working on the rails, Mike's been over here using these $10,000 pinball machines as work tables, and he is in the process of transferring the little metal standoffs that are part of I'll hold it, that are part of the plastics, from the old plastics to the new plastics. Unfortunately, they don't give you that. We filmed this, I think, in the Captain Fantastic. I think we did the same thing with with it. So we've already filmed this, but I figured I would let you guys watch Mike for a little bit while I'm over there putting the rails on. So go ahead, continue on, Mike.
So what happens is when you pull this thing off the old plastic, you have a mushroom type head because it just pulls right out of the old plastic. And in order to get that mushroomed head down through these nice clean drilled holes, you got to straighten that out. So what I've done is I found myself a drill bit that fits that hole, and I slide it into the standoff, and I use a pair of pliers to fix the mushroom so it kind of straightens it out. So first thing you got to do is get the drill bit in, so I'm going to have to go out of the frame for just a second. So now that I've got the drill bit coming through the barrel, I can use my side cutters to kind of crimp and straighten out this barrel. But this is kind of a coarse adjustment, so then I come back later with these that have a nice smooth surface on the inside to kind of go around and make it nice and round and cylindrical. And then take my handy dandy standoff post installer. It's just a Craftsman Allen wrench T-set. Put the standoff on there and then push it through. It's still pretty tight, but you can get it to go through, and post installed. Come back later once we install all these posts and get ready to put it on the machine, and we'll peel these protective tapes off, and it'll look really good.
Okay, I'm over here looking at the table, and I had just mentioned about the panhead screws and getting flathead screws, but as we were looking at the table, there's really only this little bit of railing right here, and you can see from my finger that there's a little nub there, a little bit here, and a little bit there, and there isn't any railing anywhere else that would potentially interfere with those screws. So we're going to go ahead and use the screws we got to tighten this all down, and if there happens to end up with a screw in this general area, we'll countersink it a little bit, but other than that we're not going to worry about it because there aren't any more screw heads to worry about. Okay, continuing on, I have taped this side rail up. I've already drilled one hole here. I'm going to drill another one down here. So I just stripped out a head on this screw, and the thing is not flush with the table, so I'm going to have to take that out. I'm going to stop the camera for a second while I do that. Okay, I managed to get that broken screw out of there. I'm going to drill these holes a little bigger so that the screw head doesn't, or the screw threads don't catch on this part of it. Hope that's big enough. Let's check it out. Still catches a little bit. Let me go up one more side. I'm not sure where that goes, but it goes in there somewhere. Perfect.
Yeah, same issue here, Ed.
Different design.
Different holes. Way different. But I don't think it matters. I'm not gonna change it. No. Actually, I can't. These things are so groovy and shiny.
Okay, that looks like it's holding quite well. So I have to do the same thing on the other side. I'm not going to film that, but I do want to show you something that's going on over here with Mike. I've got your hand held just so I can get you in here. Mike is working on the plastics as he showed you earlier, and this is one of the old plastic pieces. You can see where it's broken there. But he has two kits of new plastics, but in the new plastics, this piece, at least we believe it's this piece, looks totally different. And the holes don't line up. And they don't line up with the top piece of plastic either. So probably what we'll have to do is re-drill the hole to match the top piece of plastic, since the screw has to go through both of them. And get that mounted in there. Luckily, we have not mounted, or we haven't drilled the plastics holes yet on the play field, so this won't cause much of an issue there. But he also found another piece of plastic. Do you have that with you here?
Which one?
The other one that's messed up. Oh, let's go and show him this while you got it here. So here's the piece of plastic that mounts on the top. But if he flips it upside down, go ahead and flip it upside down and try and overlay this piece of plastic over the holes there. So if you line the two end holes, I think will line up.
Yes.
But the middle hole is missing by a good ½ inch. So we'll have to address that. It's just kind of an interesting little fact that as these machines were made, they made minor adjustments along the way. And one of the things that Mike was pointing out is that this piece of plastic, whoops, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was that loose. Can you line it back up? I can't get it while I'm holding the camera. Has a little cutout right where that piece of plastic is. And that cutout was there to allow the ball to drain back out of this area if it got trapped up in here while that drop target was still up. If somehow it got in there and the drop target was up, it could snake out and get around there. This piece of plastic doesn't have that. So if a ball ever got in there, it would be trapped in there until you opened up the glass and lifted it out by hand. I feel that this might be the original design, and the one that Mike has on this machine may be a later design. So
apparently that happened.
Yeah,
several times.
So we haven't quite decided if we're going to use that piece of plastic or if we're going to try and manufacture our own piece of plastic to replace the broken one or what. So anyway, we will let you know how it goes. Okay, I'm taking you guys for a ride by hand just for a second to show you that I got the wood installed on this other side. We used the plastic to line it up so that we knew that we were getting it put in the right place. And while I was here, I also installed this metal chute or whatever it's called here, the metal guide that brings the ball up this one lane here. And I am just in the process of installing this inner piece of wood. So I used the bridge here to set the spacing. I'm going to go ahead and drill 2 holes, one on each end, just like I've done for all the other ones, and then go ahead and screw that in. And that will finish all of the wood work around the table, and then I will reinstall that metal bar that goes up here on the top. Well, unfortunately, I have come to the end of my available time today to work on this machine. I did not get a chance to run the wire here, so basically what's left to do with this is to turn it over and screw or drill a couple more holes for each of these pieces of wood and add a couple more screws just to give it some rigidity. Like I said earlier, on the original play field, these were stapled on. But we're just going to use a set of about 4 screws in each one to hold it. And then the plastics, of course, screw on the top and give it even a little more rigidity. And that should be more than enough. So all in all, it's starting to look like a play field again. I just wanted to show you this before I left. So anyway, we will see you next week. Thanks for watching.